You're listening to PJ and Friends on pjandfriends.com. Orlando, Florida.
PJ and Friends is proud to present another edition of their Spotlight interview series. And now, welcome your host, PJ.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're on here at PJ and Friends. We are running a little late. Skype was giving me some issues, so we had to restart their computer, and their computer is really slow. And we want to welcome Mr. Valines, John Valines, to the show. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm good. How you doing, PJ?
I'm very well. Our interview series has been dealing with all the different people from the entertainment industry. Two things. One, to find out about them and learn about the individual, and then also talk about what they do and how they do it, and then, so we can duplicate it. Just kidding. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Santurce, Puerto Rico, and then I lived there till I was about 7.5, and then I spent a good chunk of my early teenage years in Tomball, Texas, a little town right outside of Houston, Texas.
Okay, very cool. And how old? And so you were there until how old?
I moved away from Tomball when I was 16. I moved to Orlando in 1992.
And at that age, what kind of music were you listening to?
That's a funny thing. I got through a little bit of a drug phase when I was, early 16.
Right.
And at the time, it kind of messed me up. So at the time, all I could listen to, it's weird, but all I could listen to was the Beatles. I found some of my stepdad's old Beatle albums, and I would just listen to those over and over and over and make tapes and listen to them in the car. So that Beatles was kind of a big thing. It's all I listened to for about a year and a half.
All right. Very cool. Oh, and any particular era of the Beatles? I mean, they had a couple of albums out there. What specifically, anything you were listening to specifically?
Oh, all of it. I really love Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band
right.
and Magical Mystery Tour and all that kind of stuff. They're more sort of psychedelic days, as it's considered. I thought the recording aspect of those albums was really fascinating, considering that a lot of it was just done on a simple 4-track, reel-to-reel. So I think that was really fascinating to me, and I just loved the songwriting and all that.
Okay, and so is that what sparked your interest as far as because you're like a big tech guy, your light, sound, and all that is your where did you get bit for that?
Yeah, well, when I was, let me think. I think I was about 9 years old. My dad, who my parents separated. My dad was living in Puerto Rico, and my mom and I were living in Houston. And my dad sent me a Radio Shack realistic mixer. This little thing. It was meant so that you could do 2 record players,
right.
Kind of almost like a DJ mixer.
It would have been something I wanted as a kid, but couldn't have afforded.
Right. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Now, looking back on it, it's a silly little device, but I used to play with that, and I would hook up my stereo to it. He had also sent me a stereo system that was kind of like the various components with very simple instructions on how to put it together. I had to put it together myself. And that was kind of where I just sort of learned the principles of, okay, you've got an output, and that has to go to the input,
Right. Right.
And what do you do from there? And then putting the mixer in between all of that stuff, at that young age, I just kind of learned how to manipulate and play with that. Which then led into high school. When we got into high school, I was really interested in acting. So I took every theater class and every technical theater class, and I would do acting, and then if I didn't want to be in the show, like if it was a musical and required scenes, then I would do the sound for it. Just kind of went on from there.
It's kind of cool, though, being the sound guy, because, you're real critical, but you don't necessarily have to be on stage. So it kind of is a very pivotal part of the production usually. So you're 16, you're moving away from Texas. Where do you move to?
From Texas?
Yeah.
From Texas, I moved to Orlando. My dad, he had a new family at that point. My stepmom and my half brother. They had decided to move to Orlando, so I thought, well, I'll spend my last year in high school. I'll spend it with my dad to see what living with him again would be like. So that's when I went to University High School here in Orlando, and kind of kept going from there. And that was when I moved in '92, graduated in '93. And then got a job at SAG Comedy Lab in 1994.
Good Lord, you just made me feel so old. You just made me feel so old. Well, and that's kind of cool. So did you go to college or no?
No, I didn't. I went to college, but later on, when I was about, I don't know, maybe 22 or 23, something like that. I went to Seminole Community College. Now it's Seminole State College. But I just did one semester of just regular, English, math, just the basics. And then as I started to do the second semester, I was away from SAC during that time. And as my second semester started, they asked me to come back to SAC. And my schedule just got too busy, and I had to drop out of my second semester. So that's all the college that I've had.
But for you, the things you've learned. I mean, what you do is pretty awesome. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I mean, I'm awed when I look at all the wiring that you do and all the I have to look things up still. Refresh myself what a bus is. And I ask questions that I've probably asked 100 other times, but for whatever reason, just doesn't stick in my head. But you, so somewhere along the way, you get your progression with electronics. I mean, one of my things, Chase Padgett, one of my things about Chase is he'll use technology in his performances. He brings in, samplers and so on and so forth, and he'll be in the green room, and so I'm the kind of geek, I love watching that kind of stuff. So when I watch you set these things up, very integral what you do. So how did that progress? Is it everything you do is just hands-on, is just trial and error?
Yeah, I think because I was exposed to it so early on, and I was also exposed to computers from when I was 2 years old. My dad had one of those things called a personal computer, and it was a huge monster that was in my bedroom because at the time there was, there wasn't any room left to put the thing.
Was it a Tandy?
No. Well, you know what? I don't remember exactly. I remember my very first personal computer was a Tandy color computer too. But this was before that, and I don't remember what it was, but it was, you had to type commands, and then the little printer would print out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he had me sitting on his lap, learning how to use a keyboard and learning how to put as I grew older. So between computers and having to put together that sound system, I just kind of learned it, and it became very natural to me. So I just always understood how to get speakers to work and how to use a microphone, He used to set up video camera. That's how my parents would kind of get away. Instead of having a babysitter, they'd want to go swimming in the pool or go goof around, and they would leave me for a video camera with a microphone, and I would just goof around. So it's hard to say, but for me, it's just always just been kind of this very natural extension of my life, because rather than cable TV, which was limited when I was young, I had tape recorders and microphones, and the video camera I'm referring to, by the way, was my dad had taken a security camera and soldered in some wiring so it could be plugged into our Betamax, so that we could use it at home. So,
I love the fact that it was Betamax, not VHS. That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. So many people are not going to get that. It's cool though. It's fine. Because you're not that old. I mean, I'm. You are still younger than me. This is great. All right, so here's the thing. You and I are kindred spirits. It's just, here's the thing. Where, to me, I don't know, Star Trek, if you think Wesley Crusher and the way he handled things, he in his mind could figure things out and look at things. And me, I'm the kind of guy that stands there and stares. And it appears that you do this with sound and music and wiring. And it's like... Before we the show, for example, one of the things I'm doing is I'm still PC only because of the fact that I can't afford to buy Macs, and if I did, then there's a software that goes with it, and I don't have that, even if I could find the Mac. But I have PCs are so cheap, and I have all the software, and much like you have. What's the soundboard you have up there? Right, it's called soundboard. Is the one we use for some of the music cues and stuff like that. And I have what they call Sports Sound Pro, and it's the PC version. They stopped making it, by the way, so I've got like the last version of the sucker. But it's got pages, it's got X number of buttons per page, and I can loop it, or I can hit it to where it plays a success, how my commercials play. And I now this is geek stuff. If you know PC stuff, you go from XP, which has a different it goes My Music, and then you might have subfolders and so forth and so forth. In Windows 8, it's the username, My Music, and so forth. So when I have one machine out of everything that's a Windows 8, because you can't get XP anymore. I mean, you could, but it's not simple. So I'm having to redo it, where I could just copy the file over and it would all be the same. All the buttons would be the same. I can't do that because of that one extension, that one where it's added the username in there. So I'm now having to map them out. And I bring this up because I think you and I are the same way, where I'm the kind of person, I can get doing that and lose all track of time.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You got the new mixer at SAC recently, and I mean, I'm jealous of you, but I'm also afraid of the thing, because I realize at first it's a real production. The SAC is really, really leaps and bounds to what they do, and I'm afraid I don't want to touch a button. And when it's in my home, if I mess it up, I've got no one to be mad at me. Do you ever stare at this stuff and think, and not know where to go? I mean, do you ever look at this stuff, and I think that's what happens to me. I get there, I get a brain fog, and I can't figure out what I want to do. I know what I want to do, but I can't. It overwhelmed. Do you ever get overwhelmed with what you do?
Not really. Every now and then I'll run into, especially now with the digital mixers, because between the various brands of digital mixers, there are essentially different operating systems.
Right.
And so, but what I always remember is that essentially you have an input coming into the mixer, say it's a microphone or a computer or whatever, and that thing needs to get to an output.
Right.
So that you can play it on your speakers. It's like, for me, I just simplify it very much. So that way, even if I'm on a different operating system, it's like, okay, the Behringer that we have at SAC, I'm used to calling them auxiliaries, aux outputs. They call them mix buses. Once you get that, it's like, okay, now I know how to work this, So sometimes you got to learn the syntax pretty quickly, or figure out what the buttons do. But generally speaking, once you just simplify it to the inputs, have to match up to some outputs, and you got to know where you're trying to send things, and then everything kind of starts to fall in line. It's like, all right, now I've got my input, and I know it's going to the output. Now I want to put an EQ on there. So now where does that go? So I always just keep it very simple in my head. So I'm never really intimidated by the technology. The technology has to do what I want it to do. That's its purpose.
Well, this new mixer that you guys got a couple months ago, I mean, compared to what you've been dealing with, this is like wonderful. I mean, I have not played with the back end of it and all that, but the fact that you can remove a specific noise range without, like if you've got a hum or a hiss or you get that feedback, you can remove that feedback without having to worry about anything else. That is so cool that you can do that. Anybody that has a stage production that you have a lavalier mics, or you have choir mics, and you have that one, for whatever reason, there's that one, and you can go right to the frequency and remove that frequency, and it's not an issue anymore. And it kills me. I mean, I'm so jealous of you.
Well, it's funny because EQ is something to me that's also very simple. There's a range of sounds from low to high, and when and an EQ basically represents that. And so when you hear a sound, like say you start to hear a little feedback, all you're really doing is finding what range that feedback is in, and then equalizing it down. So it's not as mystical always as it seems. And some people, and I'm not the best at this, some people can hear the sound and they know exactly the frequency. Me, I kind of have to search for it a little bit. But that's just part of processing the sound. Is you want to equalize things, and sometimes by equalizing you just make it sound as much like the source material as you can, for playback and that sort of thing. If it's microphones, you just want it to sound as close to that human voice as you can. In the a cappella world, which I deal with a lot, sometimes you're enhancing certain parts of the voice, and then with the feedback, like what you're talking about, you're just using that to kind of cut back. You're just saying, I want to not allow this sound to come through, so you just turn the right knob and then it happens.
Well, and I was watching, I can't remember where it was. I was looking up, I have an old Yamaha 16.4 mixer, and that's what I use for this. And actually, it's showing its age. Nothing's been done with it. I mean, it hasn't gone anywhere. I don't like move it every day kind of thing. But I have buttons that if you press, you got to press a couple times, or it needs to be cleaned. I need to get someone in there. And there's a Yamaha place not far from here. It's not expensive to get it looked at, but it means they got to remove it. And I'm like, I really don't want to put this back together. But and here's the thing. Forgot where I was going with this. Damn it.
Well, you're talking about the other mixer and equalizing and stuff like that. Does that help you?
It doesn't, but it's okay. It'll come back to me later. This is why I write notes down. Your mixer. Are you surprised with what they're able to do nowadays? I mean, if you had this back when you were 9, I guess you wouldn't know what to do with it. But when you first started getting involved with this, what would you have thought of this technology?
Well, back then, I mean, even computers weren't capable of doing all that much. It was funny. I was just reading something the other day that as of 1994, like if we were to go back in 1994, the iPad would be more powerful than most of the supercomputers in the world.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think as things progress, it's not like now I have my 6-year-old child who her iPad, that is her first computer.
Right.
So what she has compared to what I have is this magnificent wirelessly controlled supercomputer. So with sound, it's kind of the same thing. It's just become more and more computerized as the technology has grown. And I've been fortunate in that sense to grow from, some version of analog, in the 80s and I've watched the evolution and kind of been aware of it the whole time. So for me, it's all been a natural progression. But I don't know that I would know the same. I feel like because I learned it all in the analog world, I'm able to then apply it all digitally. And I don't know, and I see a lot of students who go to, say, sound school, and all they learn is the digital. So when something very simple happens, they're not really capable of figuring it out or fixing it, because they don't have that analog foundation.
And in terms of sound, when people refer to digital, that just means electronically created. In other words, where before it would have been, is digital another term or something in the lines of stereo, or is digital? I know analog is one channel. Digital is multiple channels. Correct? No.
Well, no, not necessarily. It's more about how the sound is processed. Because like your sound is your sound. Like say it's your voice.
Right.
You have somebody on a microphone. That still has to be converted into a signal, and that's from the very first days of any kind of recording. It becomes vibrations that has to then be converted into some kind of electrical signal that has to run across a cable, or now it's converted into a signal that can ride on radio waves, radio frequencies. And then once it gets into your mixer where you're going to do something with the sound, then it's digitally processed or analog processed. It's, so the ideas are pretty much all the same. As far as the processing goes, you still have to equalize the sound. You can add effects to the sound, reverbs and that sort of thing. And in the analog world, you're sending out to other machines to do all of that. When I talk about like the analog sound world, with the digital mixer world, a lot more is built into the mixer. So you can do that, and your freedoms rather than running cables from point A to point B to handle your routing. Because back before, you'd get your signal from the microphone, that's to go into the mixer, then it has to spit out to an equalizer, then out to your effects process, say your reverb, then back into the mixer, then out to your speakers.
Right.
Well, now, rather than running all those cables, that's all digital. So it's digital signal processing. So now, while the voice and all that is still in the digital realm, you're telling it, go here, go here, go here, rather than running cables. So that's kind of what I mean when I'm referring to the difference between analog and digital sound. Digital music versus like analog music, that's a whole other sort of thing. Computer generated music is a different world, similar in the sense, but Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. I understand completely what you're saying. One of the, and we'll get back to you, on track. We're talking about you in a second. One of the things that I like about current technology is, again, what I was getting at before I lost my track was, I was looking at places, the information on this particular mixer that I have, and I found a site that had this awesome video that explained how to use it, how to input and output, and it talked about how newer mixers now. We were talking about removing ranges of frequencies and things like that. Nowadays, you'll hear a high energy concert, let's say like Madonna, who's dancing and singing and walking around. You think she's not out of breath, but she is. But they have a way of the wind and the air and that particular noise they can remove, so you're not hearing that. Or you've seen where dancers and singers are running around stage and they're clapping their hands, but you're not hearing a slap of the hand on the mic. And they have ways of singling those things out, and that's kind of cool because they're still you're hearing their voice, you're hearing but you're not hearing the noise or the unwanted, unintentional noises that go along with the performance, which is, I think, kind of cool.
Sure.
I want you to do this. I need to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about your kid. We'll talk about your Better Days that you produced and wrote with SAC, and we'll go from there. We'll be right back.
You're listening to PJ and Friends on pjandfriends.com. Orlando, Florida.
Have you ever wanted to ride in a hot air balloon? Well, you can with Orlando Balloon Rides. It's an adventure of a lifetime. Take a ride in a hot air balloon. You will fly with the winds on a truly amazing journey. Explore Florida from the orange groves to the theme parks and more. See it all from a whole new vantage point. Experience total excitement from start to finish. You will ascend above the treetops to several thousand feet. This is an experience of a lifetime. Visit OrlandoBalloonRides.com for more information. That's OrlandoBalloonRides.com. Zoom Air Adventure Park Orlando, ziplining at its best. A Zoom Air Adventure is a great outing for families, friends, or coworkers. This entertaining self-propelled attraction gives both nature lovers and challenge seekers the opportunity to enjoy the thrill of adventure. Feel your adrenaline pump as you conquer abundant treetop challenges, including exhilarating rides on our zipline. Visit zoomair.us for more information. That's zoomair.us.
Nalor Brazilian Steakhouse, Winter Park. Nalor is an upscale casual Brazilian restaurant serving all-you-can-eat grilled meats, carved tableside. Nalor serves more than 15 different cuts of beef, lamb, chicken, and pork using a traditional open-flame churrasco barbecue. This provides the same tender and flavorful meats that have remained popular in Latin America for centuries. Nalor also boasts a gourmet salad bar with over 45 delectable choices ranging from smoked salmon to fresh asparagus, a variety of fine cheeses, prosciutto, mouth-watering hot dishes, and assorted seafood items. To complement the meal, every table is offered our house specialty, oven-warmed cheese bread. For reservations, call 407-645-1112. That's 407-645-1112. Or visit nolor.com.
Excuse me, is that your Diet Pepsi?
Sofia Vergara. Hi, yeah, this is my Diet Pepsi. I love Diet Pepsi.
Do you love every sip?
Nothing is better than drinking a refreshing Diet Pepsi and just reveling in its crisp, delicious taste.
Well, you know what they say. If you love something, let it go. And if it comes back, it was meant to be.
So I should set this Diet Pepsi free and wait for it to come back. Then it'll be more delicious than ever. Would you hold my Diet Pepsi for me?
I'd love to.
Thank you. What happens now?
Go, get out of here. It can't come back to you if you're standing next to it.
Thanks, Sophia. I'll wait for you, Diet Pepsi!
The only thing better than an ice-cold Diet Pepsi is a free ice-cold Diet Pepsi.
Love every sip at dietpepsi.com.
PJ and Friends has several ways to promote your product, service, club, group, or business. You can sponsor a segment or a whole show. Advertising packages are affordable. We can even barter in exchange for goods and services. We can get you heard. We have live reads, 30 and 60-second commercials. We can do shows live on location. Visit pjandfriends.com for more information, or call us at 407-706-9497, 407-706-9497, or email us at sales@pjandfriends.com. Also, take a moment, stop by pjandfriends.com, take a look at the previous shows, look at our website, and like us on Facebook, because, everybody wants to be like us. Let's go back to John. John, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good.
I appreciate your patience with that. You did a web, didn't you? Do Radio Rickshaw was your thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, we did that for just about 5 years, actually. Yeah.
And I don't know if I've listened. And I apologize. I guess I should have. What did it involve? What was it? The premise of your show?
The show mostly it came from Don Fowler and I. He's been my best friend for many years, and we would hang out at a bar and drink, and we would talk theater, and we thought it was funny that we were like two dudes, like, bros, and we'd get together and talk about the latest production of the Shakespeare Theater, So we thought, well, why don't we do that? And there's this new thing called podcasting coming about.
Right.
So I said, hey, we could get together, we could drink a few beers and talk about this theater stuff, and we could actually record it, and I can put it onto the internet, and other people can listen to it. So it started like that, and that was kind of the idea. And we used to ask people listening, like, give us suggestions, what do you want us to talk about? And so it just kind of stemmed from that, and then, it kind of evolved from there, and then Dan Ganator got involved, and, and he started getting us guests and people to come in and talk about things and that sort of thing. So it went on for a long time. I was actually thinking, while I was listening to your ads that you were running, I was kind of jealous. I was like, man, we could never get ads. We've never had a way to monetize it. And so it was really just for fun for us and for our, a couple hundred friends or whatever that would listen to it. And that's why it kept going for as long as it did. It was just because Don and I and Dan, we all like to hang out.
Right.
If it weren't for that, because there was no money being made at all. So, it was fun for us. I can't say it was successful, like monetarily speaking, or even as far as our audience goes, but it was fun for us and fun for the people that were listening to it. So that kept it going for about 5 years.
But this isn't easy. I mean, it's not. I do get sponsors, and 90% of it is barter, because giving stuff away is what generates the listeners. But I think what I've come to the conclusion that I can take 10-20% in cash, which covers the operational costs, and then I'll take, there are people that give me cash regardless, but then there are people that they see the value in. When I make the pitch, it's, you're going to give me a gift card, they're going to come back to you and more likely spend more money. So when they give me $1,000 with, let's say, $800 in gift cards and $200 in cash, that's a lot easier to swallow than $1,000 in cash. But I've had very few say no. There was a book, and I don't know where I put it. A gentleman wrote a book with regards to barter, and he was a gentleman over in ran a radio station called Tan Talk Radio over in Clearwater, Florida. He recently passed away last year, and his whole life was based on exchange. One of the very first things he ever did when he worked for a radio station was he needed operational cash. So he took over a station that had no money, so he went to a local car dealer. This is like 70s. Late 60s, early 70s, and he said, "I'll tell you what, you give me a couple of your least selling cars, and I will give you advertising for life." And so what the guy did was, the guy said, "Oh, well, I can do that." And it was a radio station, so they knew who they were. They were tangible. It was real. And what he did was he took those cars, drove them around the corner to another car lot, and sold those cars. Even if he got $1,000 for those cars, it was $1,000 he didn't have. It cost him nothing. He was out nothing. But I think he sold them for, they were like, they were, what, 70s, what, car worth $5,000, $6,000. They gave him like 5 or 6 of these things. And so he kept one for the station to be a station vehicle, and the other ones he sold off. And he bought and sold houses this way. He bought and sold, you can't eat on this all the time, but when you convert that one item into cash, there's work involved. So the pitch, to give you a very easy pitch, is when I talk to somebody, it's usually an email first, and my leads, just so you know, they come from anybody that's advertising on Groupon or Living Social. Those are people that are looking for a deal, and I can hit them up and say, give me a gift card and 10%, 20%, and you have to educate them on occasion, and very rarely do I get a no. So there you go. And
that's great.
And I have my my voice isn't so great, and I don't have the patience and time to edit, and although I have Audition and all these other things, I don't have the wherewithal to get them down. So I pay somebody to do the voiceovers, and it doesn't cost much. It doesn't. It's really very affordable. That's why, hence the cost for the, and so everything I do is pretty. And the big guys like Fun Spot and Pepsi and all that, they give me the commercial, so they won't trust us to do that, which is fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Nalore Steakhouse, I'll talk. Fine, we'll talk commercial. Funny thing is, they gave me like 10 gift cards, and if you've ever been to a Brazilian steakhouse, it's like $39, but they keep bringing stuff to your table. And for you, you're skinny, so you probably be full rather quick. But for a big guy like me, but even I was like, it was almost annoying. That every time you turned around, there was someone there with a skewer of something. And so we had rather quickly, I turned that thing over. But it's really kind of cool because some of these things are impressive. Every year, the Renaissance Festival sends me 200 tickets. I could never ever get away to give away 200 tickets, but they're the easiest one to get. They're the easiest one to give you anything because they're looking for all the advertisement. You back to you. Your background is theater, and here's the thing: I have not had the pleasure of seeing you on the SAC stage. I know you've done a Fish Out of Water a couple times, and you've done, for those that don't know, that's where someone swaps places in the booth with you, and then you go down on stage. You've hosted a couple of times, which I think is cool. And people seem there, we don't often see you in that role of performer, but you do perform. And have you ever? Did you ever pursue anything with regards to being on the SAC stage more often?
Not really. Last year, it was a little more than a year ago, my car approached me, and we kind of jokingly talked about doing a 2-man show. And we did it. We actually did it last year. We ran for about 6 weeks. It was there were 2 parts to the overall show. There were 2 girls, Emily and Amanda, did
right.
A half called Besties, and then Mike and I did a half called Beer Buds. Which was fun for me because it allowed me to pull from my radio rickshaw days. It was essentially just 2 guys talking, and it's all improvised. And we got just, a very basic suggestion from the audience to kind of start us off. So I've done that, but I like the technical side, and I like what it brings. And with SAC, I think as a technician at SAC, it's a unique position because you are improvising along with them. You're improvising in the show with the lighting and the sound, and your offers that you make, say with sound effects, really do have an impact on the scene. So I think that kind of fills any need I might have ever to perform because I get to play.
Yeah.
And for me, it's more about the ability to play. And that's what happened with Toxic Audio, with the acapella group that I work with, is that I was very playful with the way I engineered their microphones and the effects that I would use. And so with them, it was kind of an extension of my SAC experience where the way that I played enhanced, ultimately what the audience is seeing. So I really enjoy that role. And because I enjoy it and love it so much, I've never really had a need to want to be on stage myself or perform. I like that stuff, and I definitely admire it and respect it, but I think in the end, it's like, let the people that are good at being on stage be on stage, and let me, do what I'm good at.
See, here's the thing, though. I have not seen you perform, so I don't know, but I don't, to my knowledge, especially if you're up there on the stage with the main performers, they don't usually let just anybody do that, so that says a lot about your performance. But you also produced Better Days, which was one of their first. Yeah. Which was one. Recently they've gone in a shift to trying different formats and different things and bringing different kinds of things to the SAC stage, where before it was just improv comedy, which it always revolves around some for. But this was pretty cool. This was like a soap opera kind of thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, we don't like to say soap opera.
We don't.
But
like it?
It was a sitcom,
okay.
Situational comedy.
Okay.
So, and the only reason is because years ago we had a soap opera at SAC. And it was successful. It was really good. And then we tried to duplicate that later, and it was not. So we just tried to, as far as our marketing and everything, the idea with the sitcom was we really studied sitcoms on television and how they work and what were some of the formulas that were being used. And I read a lot of books about must-see TV. There's a book called On Top of the Rock. There's a couple of different books about sitcom writing, that sort of thing. And rather than do the soap opera, we thought, let's do a sitcom where it's and that was the difference. And with the support of SAC, we had some of the SAC improvisers. And my thing has always been wanting to mix theatrical people, other people in the community, and bring them into SAC. Because I think there's learning on both sides. I think those more classically trained actors learn a lot from our improvisers, and I think our improvisers learn a lot from those classically trained actors. So that was kind of the joy of doing that, is we got to bring in all these actors from the community to do Better Days. And we just did 6 episodes. Ran it for about, and each episode ran for a month, so 6 months worth. And critically, it was one of the most successful shows we've done at SAC.
Well,
financially, it was,
And I had seen one of your scripts, and this was a big deal. I mean, this was a real script. I mean, this, not that the other things the SAC does, it doesn't have that, but this was. I mean, I don't know how you had the time to write. I know you and Todd did this, correct? Todd Kimbrough.
Yeah, Todd Kimbrough was my partner with that.
And but these were real. You had stage direction on there. You had. I mean, I was in awe. Like, I don't belong in this place. This is so beyond me. It was great. It was good stuff. I mean, it had to be hard. I mean, you're a busy guy anyway. Outside of all this, to make your living, you do sound everywhere. And how much time did it? Let's say the average script. How much time would you say it would take to put a script together?
Well, the first script, Todd and I kind of figured out the characters. We were at a coffee shop, and I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do. And Todd had done a sitcom years ago, and I directed a couple of episodes of it. So we kind of had that foundation to start from, and we laid out what we wanted our characters kind of to be. And the first script, I knew part of the story that I wanted to tell, and then Todd had some story that he wanted to tell. That one took a few months probably to get down the script and how we wanted the arc of the season to kind of go. So that's where a lot of the time came in. Then once we started working with the actors and, really brilliant improvisers and comedians and actors, as we started working with them, we started to discover newer things about the characters and what they could do and what they were capable of. So the script writing process in some ways became easier as we went, because we had the vision of where we wanted things to end up. And as far as time was kind of funny, because once we opened the first episode, we knew we open an episode, we have to write the second episode, we have to get it rehearsed, we have to be ready for the following month. And that part of it is what became stressful. And we were writing anytime we could, Todd and I would get together to write. Eventually, Will Hageman started to write with us, and we'd do punch-ups with Mike Carr and Chris Dinger, and Jennifer Bonner became kind of one of the writers as well. And the cast would bring in ideas for storylines. And so knowing where we were going became easy. The actual printing it out and putting it into script format and handing it to the actors was always tricky. It was just, there were times when we were opening on a Friday and we would still be making adjustments to the script the Thursday the night before. That's just sort of the nature of doing that. So I think when you have a vision for something and you want to pursue it, you make time for those things. You make time for the things that you love doing, regardless of how busy you are, or how, it's like you either make time or you make excuses. The things that you don't really want to do, you make excuses. Like, I don't really want to go to the gym. I can't go to the gym. I don't have time.
You don't have to go to the gym. You're skinny.
I do have to go. I got to stay healthy one way or another. And I'm not as skinny as you like to point out.
Then you need to hire fatter actors. I'm going to tell you, it makes you look skinny. Rodney Dangerfield did that anyway. That's what he said. So your daughter made her debut, I think, in one of your she was in Better Days, was she not?
Yeah, she was in Better Days episode 3, and that was something I knew I wanted to do right from the beginning.
Nepotism.
Yeah, I knew I wanted one of the characters to be a single father, and I wanted it to be kind of a surprise. So, we worked out that whole script. That script was very special to me, of course, because, and working with her was tricky because she is a little performer. She likes to sing and dance and all that, but she gets very shy in front of people as well. So it was a trick to do, but she pulled it off beautifully. It was just this nice little scene towards the end where she comes out, says a few lines, and then they do a dance number, because I love dance numbers.
Well, yeah. So let's talk about. Okay, now is it Vox Audio now or Toxic Audio? What's their name now?
It's Vox Audio now. That's their actual official name. I still quite often refer to them as Toxic Audio.
That's what I know them from. That's how I know them. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's not a bad thing.
We had a show not too long ago, and I introduced them as Toxic Audio just out of habit.
And did they look at you funny? Do they look at you funny when you do that?
No, they all figured it out. They know I screw up their introductions half the time anyways.
I don't know that. Here's the thing. Because you're behind the scenes at SAC a lot, you could screw something up, and I'd never know it, thinking that it was the way it should be. So there you go.
Right.
So how'd you become associated with that?
With Toxic Audio?
Yes.
Or Vox Audio?
Yes.
I came from SAC way back when they had started at the Fringe Festival in 1998, and I was at SAC at the time, and during the Fringe I would be a venue tech, and they weren't in our venue for the first year, but a lot of people had seen them, and Stuart Maxwell was at SAC at the time. He's out in Seattle now, but he was familiar with them, and he brought them to SAC and said, hey, can you guys, sing as people are walking in, and then you guys can do like a little show during intermission, and then during the second half, you can play with us, and we'll do sound effect scenes, and we'll have you guys provide the soundtracks. And, he had all this idea to bring them in. So that was my first actual exposure to them, was they came into SAC, and I think they had microphones. I think they were all wired at the time. I'm not even sure they had wireless mics at the time. And we just started to play throughout the course of that night, and we just hit it off very instantly. They're like, oh man, if we could just bring you with us. And then Rene Ruiz, who was the director of the show, and he's the guy that founded the show in the first place, brought me in more and more as they started to get more and more sort of outside gigs, and we would do shows at Pleasure Island about roughly every 6 weeks or so. We'd do a weekend out there, and that was something I could do. And between my SAC schedule and everything else, I could only, I was very limited in what my involvement could be. But some stuff changed at SAC, and we were going through kind of a hard time, and our management and stuff had sort of lost focus of what SAC was, and I became very frustrated. So I finally went after pay cut after pay cut after pay cut. This is, SAC is in a wonderful place now. Don't get me wrong, but we just had some low points. I went to Renee and I said, hey, I'll do you guys full time, and shortly after that we went to New York, and we did a showcase, and the producer saw us and put us in his theater off Broadway. So that became my full-time life for a few years. With SAC always as part of it, because the management and everything going wrong with SAC started to get fixed right as I was out the door, because we had started to fix the problems, but I was already, I'd already set up my future for the next few years. That's about the time when Dave Russell took over SAC, and everything started to turn around for SAC and started to get a lot better. So Dave always kept me in the loop, and so SAC was always still a part of my life during this time, even while I was living in New York and Las Vegas and everything. But yeah, it's everything, pretty much everything in my career, one way or another, is related to my job at SAC. Most of the people that I know, most of the sound design gigs that I do, most of all of that, even like my job at Universal, I still owe that to SAC Comedy Lab.
That's cool. That's very, very cool. We're going to take one more commercial break, and then
right.
We will be back in a moment.
You're listening to PJ and Friends on PJandFriends.com. Orlando, Florida.
Excuse me, is that your Diet Pepsi?
Sofia Vergara. Yeah, this is my Diet Pepsi. I love Diet Pepsi.
Do you love every sip?
Nothing is better than drinking a refreshing Diet Pepsi and just reveling in its crisp, delicious taste.
Well, you know what they say. If you love something, let it go. And if it comes back, it was meant to be.
So I should set this Diet Pepsi free and wait for it to come back. Then it'll be more delicious than ever. Would you hold my Diet Pepsi for me?
I'd love to.
Thank you. What happens now?
Go, get out of here. It can't come back to you if you're standing next to it.
Thanks, Sophia. I'll wait for you, Diet Pepsi!
The only thing better than an ice-cold Diet Pepsi is a free ice-cold Diet Pepsi.
Love every sip at dietpepsi.com.
Zoom Air Adventure Park Orlando, ziplining at its best. A Zoom Air Adventure is a great outing for families, friends, or coworkers. This entertaining self-propelled attraction gives both nature lovers and challenge seekers the opportunity to enjoy the thrill of adventure. Feel your adrenaline pump as you conquer abundant treetop challenges, including exhilarating rides on our zipline. Visit zoomair.us for more information. That's zoomair.us.
Nalor Brazilian Steakhouse Winter Park. Nalor is an upscale casual Brazilian restaurant serving all-you-can-eat grilled meats, carved tableside. Nalor serves more than 15 different cuts of beef, lamb, chicken, and pork using a traditional open-flame churrasco barbecue. This provides the same tender and flavorful meats that have remained popular in Latin America for centuries. Nalor also boasts a gourmet salad bar with over 45 delectable choices ranging from smoked salmon to fresh asparagus, a variety of fine cheeses, prosciutto, mouth-watering hot dishes, and assorted seafood items. To complement the meal, every table is offered our house specialty, oven-warmed cheese bread. For reservations, call 407-645-1112. That's 407-645-1112. Or visit nalor.com.
Have you ever wanted to ride in a hot air balloon? Well, you can with Orlando Balloon Rides. It's an adventure of a lifetime. Take a ride in a hot air balloon. You will fly with the winds on a truly amazing journey. Explore Florida from the orange groves to the theme parks and more. See it all from a whole new vantage point. Experience total excitement from start to finish. You will ascend above the treetops to several thousand feet. This is an experience of a lifetime. Visit OrlandoBalloonRides.com for more information. That's OrlandoBalloonRides.com.
PJ and Friends has several ways to promote your product, service, club, group, or business. You can sponsor a segment or a whole show. Advertising packages are affordable. We can even barter in exchange for goods and services. If you want to mow my lawn, I can give you a commercial. We can get you heard. We have live reads, 30, 60-second commercials. We can do shows live on location. PJ and Friends. Check out pjandfriends.com for more information. Call us at 407-706-9497, 407-706-9497, or email me at sales@pjandfriends.com. And stop by pjandfriends.com anyway and take a look around, take a look at our Facebook page, things like that. We want to be liked. We're shallow people here. So, back to John Valines. Hey, John.
Hello.
I appreciate your patience with that. I have a problem with anxiety issues. When I first started teching at SAC, it was a completely different world. It has gotten, which is fun, in the way it needed to be. I mean, obviously, what they're doing is right. I mean, obviously, they've come a long way from when they first moved over to the City Arts Factory. But
Sure.
changes were made, and my I liked a lot of the freedom that we had, but when it became more structured, my anxiety level went up. What if I miss this? What if I miss that? What if I don't do this? What if I don't do that? And then I was just really having a rough time. So I've kind of withdrawn from teching as much as I used to. Not to mention I also live 40 miles away, so it's 80 miles round trip if I want to do a SAC, and then it's late at
Right.
night. I do need to come in and sit with you, only so that one of the biggest challenges I would have would a performer would ask for something, and at least on the old mixer, I knew where it was. If they needed to hear them more themselves in the monitor, I knew how to do that. While I'm sure it's simple there, and hopefully you don't have to do that as often because once things are set, they're set. Hopefully that's but I wouldn't know where to begin to do that with the current setup. That's and I apologize. I've been sort of missing. It's just if you knew what it does to me, the anxiety. Just like now, thinking about coming in tonight, my heart's pounding. But we'll figure it out. So, and I really apologize because it really meant a lot to me. When I lived closer, there'd be many times where I'd be called 10 minutes for a show, or worse yet, 5 minutes for a show, and I'd race across town to get there. And I did mind doing that, but now it's a different animal. It really is a different animal. And now everybody's mic'd. It scares me to death.
Yeah.
But I do need to sit with you. I do need to spend time with you because that'll make things better for me.
Absolutely. Well, you're gonna be there tonight, right?
I'll be there tonight and tomorrow night. So tonight at 7, I think it is, and then tomorrow 7 and 9. So that's cool. I haven't done a lot about show in a while, so that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So what we towards the end of a show, we normally ask. We have questions we ask all of our guests, and they're all right answers. So I hope you studied. When you go out to eat and you order a steak, is it rare, medium rare, well done, or burnt?
I like it medium to medium rare.
Very cool. And if I feel like I'm ordering a dinner for you. And if you have that steak and you have potato with it, is it baked potato, French fries, or mashed potatoes?
Mashed potatoes to dip the steak into.
See there? Yeah, see? Good job. This next one is a geek check, okay? And I know you're a bit of a geek, so when watching superhero movies or superhero cartoons, is it DC or Marvel?
Oh, that's a bit of a tricky one. I like the DC heroes, but the Marvel movies are so much better.
That's a good answer. Okay. That's a good answer. This is a backup geek question. When watching Star Trek, do you prefer the original series or the Next Generation?
Wow. Oh, I could get in trouble with that one. Here's what I say. Captain Kirk over Picard, Next Generation over the original series.
That's complicated, but okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. But see, the fact that you knew the answer is a big deal. I've had people that didn't know one way or another. That's fine. Oddly enough, the one that just didn't seem to fit right was the lady. She runs MegaCon every year, and she just didn't have a preference. So I guess it's like the best bartender is the guy that don't drink. So yeah, right. I don't drink. So but then again, I don't know. We have mix a drink. All right. The next question is. If you were stuck on a deserted island, what one item and one person would you bring with you?
Well, it depends. Do I have Wi-Fi access or not?
That I can't answer all those questions. That is the way it is, mister.
Well,
I have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, because once you have that, it's like, give me Wi-Fi and my iPhone, and I'm good for a while.
Well, at least till your battery dies.
Right. I know. See, well, that's where you have to get, inventive. You got to figure out how to, like Gilligan's Island, you got to figure out how to generate power just to keep the iPhone going.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it would be a device of some sort. It would be my computer, assuming that I had power, with something that I could create with.
Okay. And what person? What one person?
Oh, one person?
Anybody in the world.
That's an easy one for a dad. It would have to be my kid,
See, this throws me. Here's why. Okay, first, very good answers. I've had one person say they're going to bring a satellite phone, and then they would bring their significant other, and that was fine because they obviously didn't plan on being there with a satellite phone, right? Who was it? It was, good Lord, who did I interview the other day? They wanted to bring a plane. It's okay. They could bring a plane. So they weren't going to be.
Oh man, I didn't think
everybody wants to bring their spouse, and I'm like, why would assuming that you're staying there, why would you want to doom them to be there with you? Okay, but then Dave Russell was going to bring like a bottle of champagne and his wife. Then he was going to turn it into a romantic getaway, and I'm like, that's okay.
That's great.
So but some people wanted to bring a machete. Other people wanted. Someone brought a book. They wanted to bring a script in Ryan Stiles. I have no idea why. Anyway, I always find that interesting who they're going to bring with them, and it's also interesting to see the thought patterns because obviously you thought you were stuck there, which is fine. In your mind, that's where you were, but other people were getting off that island one way or another. So, okay, let's go back to your a couple of questions here. So, when you were a kid, you were listening to the Beatles. What is on your iPod now?
Oh, now. Let me see. You know what's funny now is that I don't even remember the names of a lot of recording artists that I listen to. But I happen to have my iPad right here. They Might Be Giants is always a staple for me. I was introduced to them in high school. They Might Be Giants is what got me out of having to listen to nothing but the Beatles, that crazy OCD Beatles phase that I went through. So they're still very much a staple. Let me see. Who's that band that does... I feel so terrible as a sound guy because I don't know a lot of the names of these bands. Where's my playlist? I'll find it for you. I'm filling the air while I'm stalling for time right now so I can actually look and give you some good answers. The Bleachers I've been enjoying quite a bit. I really like... The Naked and Famous is on there. Passion Pit. There's a few other bands that kind of have oddly enough, even though they're dudes singing, they have sort of this feminine electronic sound that I've been enjoying quite a bit. Bobby McFerrin is constantly a staple. That's what I listen to probably first thing in the morning and before I go to bed at night.
You know, and you see, here's the thing. Before I became associated with SAC, like everybody else, my first introduction to SAC was as a customer, as an audience member. And, you know, one of my things about, you know, when we moved away from a little freedom with the music at the beginning and during the intermissions it was our way of introducing or being part of the show. But for me, it was when I walked into SAC, the music playing set the mood. I mean, for me, of course, at Amelia Street, it was a lot of 80s. And 80s music was safe, you know, family-oriented, safe music, because there wasn't too much really weird on there that you had to worry about language and things like that. So it was a safe. But it was also a lot of upbeat stuff. So when we changed it, I liked, for me, it was important to set that mood. It was important to set that, you know, I wanted to give that to somebody else as they came in, hopefully that just before the lights go down and the you know, kick it's going and or whip it's going and you know, that for me, you know, set the mood, set the emotion for me.
Sure.
And it meant a lot. It really meant a lot. And I guess, you know, that's my drawback about things being predetermined, because we don't get to do that anymore. We do at the end, which is great. But I miss that. But so you know, so that means you, for many years, you know, before I became a part of SAC, you helped create that emotion for me, and I got to thank you for that, because that was a great thing. I think it's important. Yeah. I think it's a very important thing.
We still, and part of why we've kind of changed a little bit about how we do that is, and I've had difficulty because we had a very clear philosophy about the sound you hear when you walk into SAC, and it wasn't just nostalgia. It wasn't just about being nostalgic and listening to 80s music. It was about music that was fun, that you did not hear in your traffic jam on your way to work. You know, we wanted to take you away from whatever problems that you had during the day. So we typically wouldn't play top 40. We wouldn't play terribly popular music, but it would be high energy, fun, to bring you into a new place. Like, hey, you're going to this experience to get away from everything. And that philosophy still holds true. And even as I'm curating our playlists and stuff, I listen through and I go, you know what? Suddenly this song is popular on the radio now, so I'll pull it off of the list. But what happened was everyone kind of started to just get away from that philosophy and just started playing whatever the hell they wanted to play. And what their taste in music is fine, and I appreciate that, and there's no judgment there. But as far as sticking to the philosophy of the environment that we're trying to create, they would get away from that. And I would walk in hearing, you know, very popular dance music or techno music, and I'm like, hey, this is great music, but it's not the feeling that we're trying to convey. And So through that difficulty, the way to sort of fix the problem was, look, I'm going to start programming the music, and then once everybody kind of gets on board about what we're trying to do, then we're going to open up the freedoms more and more for people to kind of do what you were talking about, be able to bring their own style and
see. Can I tell you though, this is the first time I've heard that. Even the first time that I've heard that was the intention, that there was a mindset to the music that was played. I understood I don't know if in that methodology there was the idea that you were going to create an emotional. Maybe it's just me, because music to me means more than just I don't know about you, but I can listen to a song and it'll transport me back to when I was a kid. So it'll take you back to a place and time. And so like songs like "Relax, Take It Easy" from Micah. Mika, whatever you want to pronounce. You had Buddy Holly. They Might Be Giants that had quite a few. What I can't pronounce the one that you use. Hold on a second. A lot at SAC. They Might Be Giants. Let's see. Where'd it go? A-N-A-N-G. How do you pronounce that?
Oh, Anna Ing.
N-Ing? Is that it?
Yeah, Anna Ing. It's supposed to be a Vietnamese last name of a woman named Anna. That's They Might Be Giants, by the way, who I was talking about earlier.
It's them. It's a live version. That sucks live.
Yeah.
Let's see what it sounds like. Sucks live. Let's see. Let me find a better one. There we go. This is the one. See, and this is where a lot of times you guys influence. You influence my playlist.
Yeah. That's the one. Yep.
And you'd leave SAC and these songs would be playing, or you'd come in and this would be, or you guys introduced me to Beck. Because the early show they had a playlist that they would play on a regular basis, and Take It Easy. I don't know if you can hear that or not.
Yeah, I can.
See, I got to be careful. I do have the rights to play music, but when I upload it to certain services, it's just easier not to have it there, because although I have the rights. YouTube is just a pain. But I pay ASCAP every year, and I pay BMI. I don't pay. There's 3 of them. I only pay the 2. I don't care about the 3rd one. And so
most people do.
And so I pay the 2, and unless you make a certain amount of money, you pay a flat rate, because it's a web kind of thing.
Right.
And so, we don't make enough money every year to hit where we got to pay them anything more than we already pay them. So, but if I have too much of that playing in the recording, then I got to go and edit it, and I don't want to edit the recording when I have to. But
that's the trouble, because a lot of the services, they just automatically will flag you and take a show down without even.
Well, you can have like 20 seconds. Then you have to go through the process
of proving that you have the rights to play it. So it can be.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't know how, how big radio stations automatically get that by default, because I've worked for radio stations, and I know that ain't easy. I've tried, and even for them to get permission, and they have rights. I mean, they have, it's a catch-22. They want their song played. You got to let the radio station play it. But anyway, so you guys set the tone for me many times, and anyway, that was my goal. When I saw people walk in, I thought it was my job was to. Get them excited, get them hot, get them bothered. Also, but that's where it is. Not a bad thing. You guys still do that. The music now they're playing, I would never listen to. So I just
that's the trick too, PJ. Because when I first came back, and one of the main things that they were complaining about, and when I say they, I just mean people like Chris Stinger or even Dave Russell. Because when I first kind of came back to SAC, Dave was in charge, and but they didn't like the music that was being played in the lab anymore. They kind of missed the energy that we used to get. And some of the first playlists that I put together, I said, well, let me put some stuff together. They were really based on the old SAC playlists. But what we found was that our audience had kind of moved on. And so some of the songs that were very energizing to us, and still even nostalgic to me, and music that I really love, that a lot of these SAC people grew up with, didn't have the impact that it used to.
Your audience is younger. Your audience is younger, so they don't refer to the 80s anymore. So
For sure. And I mean, I struggled with that and finally had to kind of let go and say, okay, well, what did I do back then? Because really and truly, we always had kind of the 80s. That was a staple, but this was back in the 90s when I started, so the 80s weren't as far away.
Right.
And what Patrick Boyd's the guy who hired me. So what him and I would do is we would go and just spend all kinds of money at Park Avenue CDs, listening, because they had the listening stations, and we would listen to CDs, and we would buy stuff and then bring it back to SAC and play. And so I thought, well, there wasn't any, this song has to be this old or this. All we knew is that it had to be high energy and not played on the radio. And that's how we built stuff. So now we're trying to do that with the technologies that are available to us, things like Spotify,
right,
or even, I'll throw on a Pandora station, and as I hear songs, I go, man, that would be great for SAC walk-in music or whatever. I'll write them down or I'll buy them through iTunes. So it's a different way of doing it, but I've tried to go back to the same sort of philosophy and try to really think about what was our motivation back then that we were able to create such a great environment for people. And let's see if we can bring that to now using the tools that we have available.
And I equate myself several ways with SAC. I will always be an audience member, always be a fan. Okay, so there's the me that's in the audience, and so while I do teching, while I do perform, I'm still a customer. I'm still a fan. I love watching a show, and I love the energy and stuff. And so I guess I'm getting old because what I liked, so much of it is going away. And what I mean by that is, and it's just the nature of what it is. They're changing a lot of the shows. Like, I'm not a fan of a couple of the formats there. And it's so much so that I can't even tech them. I just don't want to see it. Now the few things that I had left that I'm slowly but surely losing my grip on what I liked. And so I'm, just as me, if I had no other relationship with SAC other than a customer, even going there as a customer or as a fan, I'm less and less and less and less and less because it's gotten away from anything that I liked. The show formats are changing, the music is changing, and so that has had an effect on me. And so and rather than go there and long for what it used to be, or at least a glimpse of what it used to be, I don't go. And so I hate that that's the way it is. But and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I gotta be honest, it hurts me. It hurts me to see some of those changes. But I realize, when you look at the numbers and you look at the success that they're having, obviously, I'm obviously not the audience member they're aiming for because, there are people they're doing very well. So while I miss it, it's kind of like you're watching your kid grow up. Oh, damn it, they've gone in a direction I didn't want, and I would love to be able to go back, but it's just I'm finding it less and less and less and less and less only because they're getting so far.
What's funny about a lot of that is that I was at SAC when we were back on Church Street, because remember I started in '94, so it's only a couple of years after SAC Comedy Lab, became a thing. Right. And what we're doing now is very reminiscent of what we were doing back then. We were kind of looking at the audience and creating a date night and creating a special place for people to come to. And a lot of those philosophies, I feel, we lost track of a lot of that. We kind of had something, we're like, okay, this works, we're going to keep doing it exactly the same way every time, which I think kind of showed in our numbers as people were coming to SAC, kind of going, well, they're just kind of doing the same thing every time. And now that we've sort of reinvigorated our old philosophies, oddly enough, it's like we're kind of living by our older philosophies again. I think that's where you're seeing the audience growing. And certainly there are some changes that can at times feel painful, because if you get very comfortable with things the way they are, when they change, whether it's for the better or worse overall, you might have a reaction to that. But, we're looking at how we can keep improv relevant and keep the theater relevant and continue to bring it to people. It's like if you always play to the same audience over and over, that audience eventually is going to die out.
And I understand. No, and that's what I'm saying is obviously what they're doing is right because it's the business aspect of it is doing very well, and so and I'm probably the exception to the rule because I'm very very emotional as far as it relates to music and the formats and things like that. So minor thing, it's a minor thing. I'm not knocking it at all. I think obviously what they're doing. I just wish there was room for an old fart like me.
Well, and I appreciate what you're saying too because you are part of our audience and you are a person, your point of view, and well, you as a person, of course, but your point of view is also one that we care about, and that's a big reason why Dual Fools is still a thing. Is that improv format? It was at one point we were doing theater sports, but the fact is, SAC has always kind of done their own version of what theater sports was. We were licensing the name, but that's it. So now we're still doing our version of competitive improv. Which is unique to SAC, but it works. It's short-form competitive improv, and that is something that we were doing back in '94, and we're still doing now. So we have a lot of elements of shows that from the beginning, And the idea of some of the scripted shows that we have been doing, like we just did Invasion Christmas Carol, that actually comes back from the older times, too, where every year SAC would do a scripted Christmas show. Now, I told you SAC has gone through some ups and downs, and we got to the point where the scripted Christmas shows were so bad that we just stopped doing them. And it was just a matter of who was on staff and who was writing the shows and directing the shows. It just got bad. But now we've actually brought that sort of tradition back.
Right.
So it's funny because while everything feels very fresh and new at SAC, and it's certainly, I agree with you that feels different, but it's actually all based on these old philosophies that I remember from when I was 18 years old walking into the SAC Comedy Lab on Church Street, So I think there's a lot of that, and I think certainly sometimes people can find some resistance to some of the changes that they see happening. That's only natural. It's only natural for you to say, hey, I loved it when it was this particular way. But I think we are catering to that to a degree. I think there are still a lot of things that we're still doing because, we're an all-ages company. And when I say all ages, I mean people from little kids come there, people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s come there. And there are people certainly that have been fans of SAC for as long as I've been at SAC, which is 21 years now. And they remember how we used to do things, and they see the changes, So I feel like we're doing the right thing.
You are. No, you are. But let me tell you. You what I take away from SAC, everything that they teach, everything that they do, it's kind of weird because you embrace these things, right? And then you go somewhere else and you see them doing things a little differently, and you see it doesn't work. What they do elsewhere, sometimes it's just not as solid as, because we've got some pretty awesome people there. We've got some pretty awesome talent and experience to pull from. And, these people at SAC, between Mike Carr and Richard Paul and all the people that teach there and what they do, John Hunter, the things that they instill, the things that they teach you, even you, and I'll say this because when I teched the Tampa Improv Festival last year, and it was important for me for it to be as solid as it. So I had a friend who runs an event here every year, and he loaned me these huge, nice speakers that really kicked ass. And I brought a mixer, and we did. I mean, it was important that the music right. And while we at SAC will play a sound effect. We will play a song if it's relevant. We will try to enhance a scene. We'll make an offer if it's relevant and timely.
Yep.
I was doing these things at the Improv Festival, and I got nothing but positive because a lot of these performers had never had those things. A lot of the black box theaters don't have this awesome stage. They don't have these awesome speakers and sound effects. They don't have the equipment. So we're very, very lucky and spoiled at SAC. We're really, really lucky to have what we have. So the things you've taught me, I've taken elsewhere, and it's important to me. And I get frustrated if it's not done right, or if I'm like, I get frustrated if I have to settle. And sometimes you do because of budgets and things like that. But it would be so much nicer if it were this. But anyway, I've taken the things you've taught me and how important it is, and the things, the energy and the atmosphere you created at SAC with regards to our role as techs. And brought it elsewhere, and it's important to me. And so everything you guys have taught, everything that you've done, from the improvised side to the acting side to the teching side, change or not, my hat's off to all you guys, because what it is, it's working. And it is valuable, and you've made me look good, because when I go elsewhere and I do it as badly as I do it compared to you, they like me. So I'm like, this is cool. Because I'm no John Valines, I'll tell you. But when I can flip that switch at the right time, and they think, oh my God, that light came on. Wow. Hey, all right, cool. Yeah. I'll take that.
Yeah, that's something that's been unique to SAC, and not just SAC, but there's some great technical improvisers in Seattle theater sports as well, and I learned a lot from them. But we've always focused on making that a crucial element of the show, where a lot of companies, especially the Canadian companies, like where theater sports comes from, they do not. The technician is there to do what the performers want them to do. If you call a blackout and they don't like it, they'll call it back up again. So they'll full out block the technical improvisers. They're not the technicians are not improvisers, and that's a philosophy at SAC we've always taken since the beginning, is that let's include the technician as an improviser. Let's accept and say yes and to their offers as well.
Right.
And that's something that a lot of improv groups don't have, and don't like. That philosophy is not taught from the people who created theater sports. I'm telling you, because I've worked with them, and they would block my offers left and right. They just, So I think we're fortunate that we take advantage of that, and that we're able to do those things. We're very fortunate with our audience base and everything else that we can actually have a computer hooked up to a mixer, and we can do those things. And I would encourage any improv troupe to consider that. Do what you can to get a technical improviser on your side. I think it's going to enhance the overall production value of your show. Clearly,
Well, I want to thank you for your time. I think we're well over an hour now, which is fine.
No problem.
I want to thank you so much. First, and I know people probably think I'm sappy, because I think when SAC went through the changes it went through a couple of years ago, when we had the regime change there, it was a painful time. Mike Carr had to make some hard choices, and I'm sure he was not happy. He did not want to be in the seat that he was in, but it was necessary. John Hunter, when he has to choose who goes through and who doesn't, when he has to choose who gets on what schedule and who doesn't, I'm sure he'd love to be able to give everybody a spot, but unfortunately it just doesn't work that way. Right. You do, you have put together some awesome shows. I was there. One of the very first things that they did with the the improvised Christmas Carol, and you were working out the sounds that first night, and you had your laptop there, and you were picking up sounds, and how important what you do is, and there's a reason why guerrilla theater, it is put together as it is, as scripted as it is, as far as lights and sound is concerned. There's a reason for that, and it matters, and it enhances the show. I thank all of you, because one, there was a period of time so often where SAC was unsure where it was going to be the next day, and we've gotten so far from that. We are now, busloads of people going for Christmas parties and stuff like that. That's a big deal. And so what you do, what the other guys do, matters. As much as it hurts me to see some of the changes, and I miss what it was. I miss seeing Dave Russell on stage. I miss seeing, some of the things that I'm used to. I realize that I'm never going to be as skilled as some of these other guys to be where they are. It's just not happening. So those things hurt me, and I get jealous sometimes, and I have to walk away. But you guys do an awesome job. You guys, I'm in awe of you. I love what you do. I love what these guys do, and you've given me tools to help make somebody else's show a little better. So all I can do is say thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate those words, PJ. And I always love seeing you around there, and I thank you, too, for how many times you've helped us out and been there for us. And I don't mind your criticisms. It gives us something to think about.
Well, so. I hope they're not negative. I don't mean them to be. And I know that I get wrapped up in my emotion of it, so it comes across bad sometimes. But
sure.
It's not meant to be. It's meant to be that if I'm communicating poorly, it means I'm just hurting because I'm missing it. So,
well, yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, part of my job as production manager for SAC is a lot of times is questioning the choices. Now, I support every choice that Chris Dinger and Michael Carr make, but it is part of my job to go, hey, why are we doing this? Is there a reason for it? And there usually is, and it's not always seen right away by people. A lot of times, like, well, why the hell did you guys do that? But all the choices that those guys have been making and the changes that we've made have certainly paid off. But it doesn't mean, things shouldn't be questioned from time to time. And I like, it forces us to think. You were asking about the music earlier, and it gave me an opportunity to kind of explain to you why, we sort of changed the way we were doing that. And I think that conversation is worthy. It's worth having those conversations for sure.
Oh, very cool. Well, John, I appreciate your time today. We're going to take the show to a close. You have so you're not at SAC at all today. Are you there tomorrow at all, or no?
I'll be at SAC for a little bit today. I'm mostly in a tech week for another show. So I'll be in and out of SAC all through the daytimes. So okay. I'm going to try to get everything set up nice for you today.
Yeah, that's right. Unplug everything. That'll teach me.
Right. I'll show that guy.
All right. Well, you have a great day, and give your daughter a hug, and I will see you when I see you.
Thanks so much for having me, PJ. I wish great success for your show, and this was a lot of fun. I really am glad that you included me on
And if I can help you with yours, let me know. I don't know what I could do for you that you can't do for yourself, but if I can, let me know.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, this has been another edition of PJ and Friends Spotlight interview series with Mr. John Valines. He's the tech guy. He's an awesome man, does a lot of stuff at SAC Harmony Lab. He repairs the seats that you break. Yes, you break them. We know you do. We know who you are. We have cameras. Not yet, but we're working on that. Thank you so much for your time today, guys. Take a minute to stop by pjandfriends.com, like us on Facebook. We have a link to SAC there, and I count the links, how many times you clicked, and you guys have actually gone a lot. So you have a great day, and I will see you when I see you.
You're listening to PJ and Friends on